Today we're going to make an adjustable chair using Tinkercad Codeblocks, so let's get cracking. This is Tinkercad.com. It is the easiest place to learn computer-aided design. It is 100% free, and I simply choose Sign In with Google. All of our designs are stored to the cloud. They can be 3D designs, circuits, or as I said, today's going to be a Codeblock, so simply hit Create New Codeblocks Project. Let's start by naming it, and we're going to call this one Chair. In Codeblocks, we add parts like this. We can modify them. There are controls. We can do math, and we can have variables. Right now, we're going to start by making a template. Our template is going to be the leg of a chair. When you bring this out, we get the Define option, and then also we get the Create part. We'll use Create after a moment. Right now, we're going to define by simply bringing out a shape, which will be the box. If we click on this arrow, you can see its parameters. Right now it's got a height, a length, and a width that are typed in. We're going to change that to instead use variables. To do the variables, we simply go back here and say create number variable. Chair legs are square, so we're just going to do leg.lw for length and width. Once we create that, we can now bring it in and we can populate these little areas. When you drag it in, note it is the left edge that sets it in. So if I try and set that with the right edge, it will not work. So bang, we've got the length and width of our legs. Let's also create a variable called leg.h, which will be for the height. And of course, drop that in this box. Now we could use these blocks to set and change our leg width and height, but instead we've got a fantastic new trick where we can create a control. I want to do the leg length and width. I'm going to stay with this label. Notice I've typed the leg length and width. I'm going to stay with integers only. That means it can only be whole numbers. I'm going to choose a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 15. And I'm going to say the default is 3. You can, of course, pick your own numbers. You can also change these later. Now I've got that variable. We're also going to do the same thing to add the height. Once again, I filled in a description, a minimum, and a maximum. We can adjust these later, but now they're in place. So here's what's kind of cool. If I adjust this to 17 and 4, and I hit play, bang, we have got a chair leg created just like that. If you look at it closely, notice it's at 0, 0. We're going to fix that with a modify. Simply bring out a move axis. We want to switch it to the Z axis, that's up and down. And we want to set the minimum to 0. I'm also, just for fun, going to make this brown. So it's got a wooden chair leg. Now we're going to hit the fast button to play, and bang, that is the leg of our chair. Now that we've got our leg, let's make the seat. Once again, templates. We're going to choose Create Template. We're going to call this one Seat. And hit Create. Once again, we'll set this piece over here for later. And right now, we'll define the template for the seat. It is going to be a cube again, so let's do this trick. I'm going to right-click on this and duplicate the entire set of blocks. We're still going to want to be able to move this when we're done. We do need to throw out all these variables. This is a good time for me to show you that we do it by simply dragging them right over here. Now we need to create the seat variables. It's the same trick. Simply create a variable. We're going to do this as seat.lw for seat length and width. And just like before, we also need seat thickness, but we're going to call this seat dot, and I'm going to put the whole word depth, just so we can remember that it's the depth of our seat. We can now drag in our variables. Of course, the length and width go in the length and width boxes, and then the depth goes right here. I do want my seat to be rounded, so I'm going to quickly add a radius. Once again, create a variable. We'll use the same radius everywhere. Give it the name and hit create. Now we can drop that variable in here where it says edge. I'm going to stick with the same edge steps. Let's quickly add our controls. Once again, hit the plus, seat length and width. Filling in the description, and of course a minimum, maximum, default. Once again, we can change these later, and I'm sticking with integers. Same thing for seat depth. Once again, the thickness, integers 2, 3, and 10. Guess and check until I find what I really like. And of course, the radius. This is how rounded the corners are. I'm going to do 0, 10 is the max, 2, and this time I'll allow decimals. Once I add that, if we hit play, now we have got a rounded seat and a square leg. This is where Codeblocks gets really cool. We're going to use math from the seat to move the legs to the correct spot. Find your modify and your move command. Drop it out, and we're going to fill X and Y with math. We're going to bring out this operation right here, and we're going to bring it out twice. The math works like this. We're going to do the seat length and width. Notice I'm dropping it in the left edge. I'm going to change this to divided by, and we're going to divide by the number 2 so that we can find half of that distance. We are also going to take the leg length and width, and we're going to divide it by 2 as well. Once again, finding the halfway point. We're going to add one more cool variable. Simply hit create, and we're going to call this the leg dot inset. This will be how far we nudge the leg in as we build. I'm going to set it right here. We're going to bring out another math. This one's also going to be minus, and we're going to put the leg inset right here. Real quickly, let's add the control, leg inset. I'm going to say minimum 0, max 5, default 1. And of course, I added a description, and we can add the control. Now here's where we build the big math. One more of these. We need to make it a minus. We're going to grab this entire chunk of math and put it on the left. We're going to put this entire chunk of math in this box right here. So you can kind of see the order of operations. Both of those happen before the subtraction. And now we're going to grab all of this math and put it in this hole. Notice if you put it on that side, it does not work. You got to do the left edge, so that when we look at our math again, notice I'm always grabbing by the operations. You can see that we've got this division, and then finally we subtract the nudge. So we're going to need to use this formula a couple times, so let's make our life a little easier. Create another variable. Once again, a number variable. We're going to call this leg.offset. And hit create. Now, instead of this being a control, we are going to use the set variables. So when I click set, I'm going to switch to the leg offset, and we're going to grab this entire chunk of math. Notice I'm grabbing by this math sign and dropping it in the box. What this allows us to do is to come down here to the move and just drop the leg offset inside here. It takes this complex math operation and it makes the programming look a lot cleaner. This is where the magic works with the control as well. We're going to bring out the repeat command. We want a total of 4 legs, so we're going to hit 3 right here. Now we can go to the modify command and we're going to find the add a copy. Bang! We drop that in and we just want our fancy leg to rotate around. Bring out the rotate around, switch it to Z because we want to look down at this as it rotates. We're going to stay with 90 degrees and we're just going to find the 0, 0 math operator. Drop it in the pivot. Just like that, if we hit play, bang, we have got 4 legs. How freaking cool is that? So with the legs in place, let's create from the template seat. Of course, when you bring it in, we can hit play. You can see it shows up at the bottom. We're going to fix that with a simple move. We can simply drop in the math variable here. And if we drop in the leg height variable for Z, once again, fast play, bang, chair with legs in place and inset. Let's wrap this up by making the template back. Once again, create template. I'm going to simply name it back and hit create. We're going to define it up here. We'll use it later. I'll just set it here for now. Let's be efficient by using these parts. Let's duplicate. I'm going to just bring it down here for a moment. And let's throw away this move. And let's also throw away the length. We are going to create that length with a brand new variable, zip to your variables, let's hit create. We're going to call this back.l for the length of the back variable. We can now grab it and drop it right here. Let's quickly put this in place, and we need to add some modifications. First, we're going to do a rotate. It's simply going around the x-axis by 90, but we do want to put in the 0, 0, 0 for where it pivots. Now we can get ready to move it in place. I'm going to simply grab the move command, and let's get fancy and steal some math. We're going to copy this whole brick by coming out here and clicking on this math operation. Notice the green line goes all the way around. If we're not all the way out here, we don't have the whole math piece, and we're going to simply duplicate it. And we're going to throw away a couple parts. We could do this in one step, but I'm going to do it in two, just so it's a little more clear. Now that we've got this piece, we want everything to the left. Bang! So now I've got seat divided by 2 and length width divided by 2. This part can be thrown away. I'm going to grab this by the minus sign, and we're going to drop it in the Y box. Notice we leave X at 0, and now let's build the math for Z. Once again, grab one of these little math options, and let's right-click and duplicate it so we have a pair of them. Make sure you're at your variable area, and we're going to find the back length, and we're going to divide it by 2. Now we're going to grab this chunk of math and put it in the left side, so it's back length divided by 2, and then we are going to add the variable for leg height. Bingo! Grab all of this math by the plus sign and put it in the Z box. I'm going to pull this down a little bit and connect the back, and let's quickly add the control. If we hit plus, you can see that we have not done the back length. I'm going to put this in as back.l, length of the chair back, integers only, 10, 50, and 25. Let's quickly add the control, and the moment of truth, if we hit play, bang, we have got an automatic chair. How cool is that? Want something different? Simply drag the sliders and hit fast play again to adjust it to whatever you want. Of course, all possible because we defined the pieces and added the variables that let us make this look awesome. Let's clean up this just a tiny bit. You can hit edit. We can easily make these labels a little more clear. All you do is go in here and change them. I like the short variable names, but it's often really nice if you've got the full information on your controls. We can also adjust where these show up. If I want the back length to be higher, I simply nudge it with the arrow keys, and then like I said a moment ago, I'm going to make that back and length just so it's more clear for the users. I do want to show you quickly, you can add comments to this. If I bring a comment out here, you can explain your projects, or as you can see here, I'm adding a way for you to visit my YouTube channel. And of course, you can explain everything that happens in your project as well. I am going to show you this though. We're going to click on share, and I'm going to share it as a Codeblocks shape. Once this appears, we can give it a name. I'm going to call mine auto chair. Could give it a description, could give it tags. I'm going to leave all those blank. I'm going to leave it as a solid, and I'm going to simply hit save shape. Notice it says it was saved here. Now I'm going to back up to the workplace. Right now this design is private. If you want to adjust that, you can go to properties, give it a description, give it some tags, and of course you could make it public, share a like so users can modify it. I'm going to just leave mine like this for now, but I am going to save the changes. And then what I want to show you is we are going to start a brand new 3D design. Still going to name it. I'm going to call this one Wow. And here's where it gets cool. If I go to your creations, this is the auto chair. When I bring this in, it's got sliders. As soon as we adjust the sliders, our shape changes. Bang! You can make any chair you want, and then are you ready for this? You can ungroup it. It becomes the separate pieces. So if I do Control Z, say I just wanted to grab the middle pieces, for some reason I wanted my chair to be pink, I want the legs to say be gray, we can modify the pieces however we want. Need more chairs? Bring them out. You can adjust them however you want by simply adjusting the parameters. Of course, if you come up with a different application, you can go back to the Codeblocks shape and make your smart shape even more awesome. Currently, I've given everybody a fun jet. You can find that using the bit.ly, and then I also showed a way to take the built-in house and give it walls. These also work with the shapes that are given to us. You can find them via the Codeblocks shape area. There are all sorts of amazing things that you can play with. Of course, check the bit.lys in the description to see how I've already put them to use. All right, so let's review quickly. Of course, code blocks are a little bit different. If you haven't used them before, please check out the playlist up above. I've got a ton of tutorials. They will help you get better with them. The real power comes when you start making them parametric. When you can adjust the variables to make them turn into any shape you want, that is fantastic. And of course, now that we can bring them into the 3D editor, that makes it more powerful too. Please check out the videos above. They show you how to make them. They also show you how to share them. So once you've created something awesome, you can just give it to other users. So bang, they can make it a Tinkercad Smart Shape in just a few minutes. Of course, if you do make a fantastic smart shape or you have an idea for one, please add a comment down below. I'd love to hear it, maybe even share it in my Patreon, and we can all build it together. I do want to quickly say thank you to everybody that supports me via YouTube memberships. Don't forget there are 3 levels of support starting as low as $5 a month. With any level of support, you get early access to videos. Also, make sure you pay attention for those members-only posts. A massive shout out as well to everybody that supports me via Patreon. We are past 600 members. It has a fantastic free messaging area where you can ask questions, post designs, gain skills. Of course, you can learn more with the bit.ly up above or the link in the description. Finally, friends, I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget every time you like, hype, share a video, add a comment down below, or click subscribe. You're helping HLModTech get just a little bigger, which absolutely makes my day. Friends, have a glorious day, and keep tinkering.